Many thanks for joining us. Now we take a look at the question we're asking you today. Is bad governance the key problem affecting most African countries? That's a tweetable question. Is bad governance the key problem affecting most African countries? Do interact with us at KTN News KE at the Jesse Rogers using the hashtag #BottomLineAfrica, even as we anticipate to have a discussion later on highlighting on the political developments that have happened in the continent, also taking a look at governance, so definitely interact with us. All right, newly elected president of the Democratic Republic of Congo, Felix Tshisekedi, yesterday held bilateral talks with Kenyan President Uhuru Kenyatta. The meeting that was also attended by ODM leader Raila Odinga comes days after his inauguration as the DRC's new head of state. Kenya is the second nation Tshisekedi has visited, coming after Angola, where he met with President João Lourenço to discuss Congolese migrants in Angola.
Very well. Welcome to Nairobi. Thank you. Thank you.
Welcome again.
Thank you.
Well, definitely swift victory right there for President Felix Tshisekedi. But it has been a protracted election, especially in the DRC, ever since 2016. This particular election was meant to happen, but fast forward to 2019 and the very first peaceful transition of power in that particular country since independence in 1960. Trix Ingado is already in studio just to break this particular thing down for us. Trix Ingado, good afternoon. What do you have for us?
Well, this country, what it has done right now just to elect and peacefully transition in terms of leadership is one of the major steps it has done in history, because we know it has been marred with violence that is centered around power. Power struggles in that country are nothing new. So when you see him taking power from the previous president and coming over to Kenya, first of all, he went to Angola and he met with that country's president, and they had discussions mainly with regards to how the country can deal with the migrant crisis from the Congo to that country of Angola, because we know that Angola is hosting thousands and thousands of migrants from the Congo because they're escaping a lot of difficulties in their home countries. So those are some of the things that he did discuss in the country of Congo. So when you look at the history, or the recent history of this country, this is the first transfer of power of election in 59 years. You can't imagine that. And then the election, of course, was marred by controversy. It was postponed over and over again just because they say there were budgetary constraints. But some people thought that the previous president was not really willing to hand over power. And even as this president was elected, it has been said, or there are allegations that there was collusion between the two leaders. So while the power transition is happening, it might not be as clean as you might expect, as in a clear, free and fair democratic process. But that is yet to be seen as the political events in that country continue to unfold. And then opponents claim that the election was not free and fair. Of course, there were claims of rigging, as one of the main opposition leaders said that this election was not clean, it was not fair, and he has even called for peaceful resistance to the new leader's authority, or the new leader's administration, as he tries to take over and find his political water legs. So let's move on to the next slide and take a look at his win. So Martin Fayulu is that opposition leader who is opposing his election. And you know that while he was being elected, there was a lot of, even internationally, there was not a lot of side-eyeing, if you can call it, at his election. And therefore, there were very few leaders that actually attended his inauguration, one of them being the Zambian president and also President Uhuru Kenyatta, who went along with former Prime Minister Raila Odinga, or ODM leader rather, Raila Odinga. to that inauguration. Other countries sent their ambassadors. Tanzania sent its vice presidents to attend the inauguration as he was ushered into office. And then, well, he decided to go to Angola and just find a way of, and had bilateral talks on migrants and find a way of dealing with it, because there has been also tension between local Angolans and these migrants from Congo who have moved into the country and trying to settle down. But of course, with an excess of migrants, there's always going to be tensions at the grassroots. And then he has come to Kenya, and there were talks between him and President Uhuru Kenyatta, and sitting in was Raila Odinga, who did, and both of them discussed ways in which Congo, the Democratic Republic of Congo and Kenya can work together to ensure that there's going to be some sort of cooperation in terms of infrastructure. We know that a lot of goods are imported to the Congo through Kenya from the coast, and these are some of the elements that are going to work together. A lot of Congo migrants, not really migrants, but refugees, have been hosted in Kenya for a very long time, and they've even been absorbed into the citizenry of this country. So these are some of the uniting factors between Congo and Kenya. And they were discussing this and trying to find ways that Kenya, having learned lessons from political instability, can actually help Congo move on from its own situations politically. So you can take a look at some of those, more information about that online. But immigration was top of the agenda in Angola. So let's move on and see what more we have on Angola. So we have when he touched down yesterday, he was welcomed by the president, like I said, and by the ODM leader, and they had talks. We saw the signing taking place right there, and this is just going to be the rollout of more collaboration and operations between the two nations. And then some of the major hurdles or some of the major things that are sitting on this man plate include the economy. When you see an influx of people moving from a country, many times it's maybe conflict, but on top of that, it's an economy that cannot sustain them. And this is a big problem that the Congolese have faced. Unemployment is at an all-time high in that country. We have corruption, an issue that is affecting a lot of countries, but perhaps this country is facing it even on a larger scale than other countries. Then we have social services that are not really being delivered to the people on the grassroots. And then security is another huge issue in the Democratic Republic of Congo. And it is going to be faced, and all eyes are on him. Is he going to be the one leader that is going to change things for the Congolese, or are things going to fall back to the usual conflicts and, you know, a lack of delivery in terms of administrations? That's it for right now. Back to you, Jesse.
Thanks, Trix Ngado, giving us the details of DRC, and in terms of his tour, you know, his very first tour as president of the Democratic Republic of Congo, especially some details on what the bilateral talks in Angola and in Kenya were centered on. We'll definitely get to have a discussion later on in the broadcast just to highlight what steps this president should actually take to actually get the Democratic Republic of Congo to a position where it should be as an economic stronghold in Africa and in the region as well. Many thanks. All right, Zimbabwe's main opposition party has snapped